amiga. Welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. I'm Jackie Tapia, a former lawyer turned transformational life coach and holistic wealth guide. Leaving the practice of law was my way of handling my shit, and now I'm here to help you do the same by stepping into your feminine power, breaking down cultural limitations, and embracing the unstoppable, unapologetic Latina you were born to be. This show is here to inspire and motivate you to reclaim your power and live a life of abundance. You'll hear from successful entrepreneurs, creatives, and thought leaders who'll share tips on mindset, success strategies, and personal development. I'm a proud wife, a proud mom to a little badass Latina, and I am obsessed with empowering women just like you. Together, let's create the life of your dreams. So, amiga, it's time to handle your shit. Vámonos. Hello, amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. Wow, how exciting I get to see my friend today on the podcast. And her name is Alexxa Morgan. And there's a lot that we're going to be chatting about, but let me tell you a little bit about her. Okay, she's really amazing. So I'm so excited for this episode. So, graduating high school at 16, Alexxa embarked on a remarkable academic journey, earning a business and management degree from Pepperdine University as the first in her family to do so. Her passion for volunteering began at age 5, leading her to dedicate countless hours to organizations like the Make-A-Wish Foundation, where she fundraised $22,000 to grant wishes for 2 children. Alexxa's community service extended to the San Diego Burn Institute, the Fire Prevention Association, and various animal welfare groups, earning her 3 prestigious Gold Service Awards from the White House. Alexxa also funded her education through pageantry, becoming the first Miss Oceanside Fire Prevention since 1962 and winning Miss Teenage California 2014. She now brings her experience and passion for innovation to the tech industry, having worked with Google and Apple, and is part of a pioneering team developing the first EV vertical airlift service. So without further ado, amigas, this is Alexxa Morgan. Well, hello, amigas, and welcome to Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. Okay, so this is so exciting because I haven't seen my friend since my birthday. Yes, since February, amigas. Yes, she attended my birthday. That was like the first time I met her, actually. Long story short, I'm so happy that she was able to be there with us and celebrate all the amazingness that happened during that crazy week.
It was an incredible week. Crazy in the best way.
So I'm excited because I got to learn more about her. And I thought, wow, what an incredible human being. And amiga, she's super young. I mean, I could be her mama, but well, I already said, I already turned 50. So shit, I can be someone's mama, many people. Well, anyways, oh my God, Alexxa, I'm so excited that you're here. Thank you so much for being here with me on Amiga Handle Your Shit. So welcome, my dear friend Alexxa.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. This is the highlight of my month. So I'm very honored and very excited to be here. So.
Oh, well, you know what? The honor is mine, my love. So here's the thing, amigas out there who don't know who Alexxa Morgan is. You will get to know who she is by the end of this conversation. So one of the beautiful things that I saw on her Instagram is that she calls herself a Jesus lover, a world traveler, an ex-Googler, and a former Miss Teenage pageant amazing queen. And she has received multiple awards from the Gold Presidential Awards from the White House, amigas. I mean, come on. Hello. Who the fuck gets an award from White House?
It
So we
was
have,
a surprise to me too, but it was a great honor. It was actually someone else nominated me for it, so
oh,
it
amigas.
was a pleasant surprise.
Wow. No, I'm just like, damn, this girl has done a lot. And as you probably already heard from my intro, it starts at a very, very young age. So I really want Alexxa to talk to us a little bit more where she's from, what her background is, because I think that is like the key to why she is who she is and why she's here with us. So, Alexxa, please tell us where you're from, what's your background?
Yeah, so I was born in Bakersfield, but I've spent my entire life in San Diego. I'm from like Oceanside, Carlsbad area, so right near the military base. I was raised by a single mom, so that's like a big factor in my story and my life. So I was an only child raised by a single mom, and it. I always joke growing up. I was like, we weren't poor, we were po. We couldn't afford the OR at the end of it. So it was definitely life had its trials and tribulations at a very young age, but one thing that always stuck with me is my mom had this mindset of it doesn't matter what we're going through, it doesn't matter what we have each other, and it is our job to help someone who's struggling more than us. So she actually, I remember I was 5 years old with my first volunteer experience ever, and she dressed me up as the Easter Bunny, and I was in this like full onesie with big old Easter bunny ears and a cottontail, and she drew these whiskers. And there's a big old cutout for my face. And as a child, I was mortified. I did not want to wear this in public. I was like, why do I have to do this? And she goes, just wait and see. And we ended up going to Teresa's house for battered women and children on Easter. And we brought them these Easter baskets, and it had clothes and toys and blankets and all these things. And I had all these children, ironic because I was 5 at the time, but all these little, kids and toddlers coming up and hugging me and saying thank you. And that was the first time I ever experienced that. And that kind of like just was the catalyst for me saying, okay, we do have to help. There's always something that we can do, and we can make a difference in someone's life in more ways than one. And you never really know how that impact will be.
Right.
And then from there, I worked with Make-A-Wish Foundation. So I actually started working with Make-A-Wish Foundation at the age
Okay,
of
wait,
6.
wait. Okay, we gotta, what? Okay.
Yeah.
All right, amigas. Okay, so this is the thing about Alexxa. The first time I met her, I thought, wow, this woman, young woman, thought, like as we say in Spanish, is muy servicial, meaning she loves to serve and support people. And I thought, God, that is so beautiful as a human being, right? And I just barely met you, Alexxa. And I thought, God, man, I want her to be part of my team or something. I'm like, so
I would love to.
but here's the thing. I mean, I'm like, okay, so here you are, 5 years old, volunteering. You're the bunny
Mhm.
at the time, but then you said you Make a Wish Foundation. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
wait a minute. Now you're 6 years old and getting involved in the Make a Wish Foundation. How? What?
Oh.
How does one do that?
So the Make-A-Wish actually partners with, so this was when Chargers were back in San Diego at the time, and you could actually volunteer to be, or you could sign up to be a junior Charger girl. So you actually would cheer on the field with the Charger girls. And what you do is you would fundraise in advance. And so the goal was to fundraise as much money as you can, and 100% of the proceeds would go to Make-A-Wish Foundation. And it was one of those things that I was like, I love this organization. I met kids my age that were, fighting life-threatening illnesses, and to give kids the opportunity of hope and for a wish is something that it's an organization that's very near and dear to my heart. I've been a part of it for more than a decade now. I actually became the first Miss Make-A-Wish when I was 16. Um, Funny enough, so when I competed, and going off little off topic, but still related. When I competed in my state title, so I competed for Miss Teenage California, you could choose to represent your city, or you can choose to represent an organization that you were happy with, or like that you were a part of. And so for me, I said, I have to try and represent Make-A-Wish. So I actually ended up contacting the CMO at the time, and I said, I have a business proposal for you. If you'll give me 15 minutes of your time, I would love to go over this with you. I think it's a really good marketing idea. It's something that's never been done before. And he was like, how old are you? I remember him being on the phone and be like, how old are you? How did you get my number? And I was like, I'm 16 years old, but I got it. I have a vision. I have an idea, and I would love to run it by you. and he thought I was
Okay,
joking, so he
amigas.
wanted to meet with me in
16
person.
years old. 16 years old. Hello. Shit, what was I doing? God, nothing. Wow. But okay, so how do you get that guts though? You being that gutsy, like to do that? Like, where does that come from?
So I will say that that is definitely a personality trait from the Lord. That's definitely part of it. I would say that's my mom has always told me ever since I was little. So Alexxa actually means helper of mankind. And
Oh,
my mom used to tell me that growing up. She goes, I don't know what you'll do in this world, but I know you're going to help in some way or another. And that's what your name means. That's what you're going to live up to. And so I kind of already had that like gusto always inside of me. I was always a fearless kid. I was homeschooled from third grade to graduating year. So my mom was I would say I love my mother. She's the most incredible woman in my life. She's definitely a tough cookie. So she did not, life wasn't easy and she did not make it any easier in a sense. But
yeah,
she
well, being
always
a
instilled
single mom,
exactly. She's a
it's
mama
really
bear for sure.
challenging. Yeah, it's very
Exactly.
challenging. I mean,
And
I
so
like I complain sometimes because my husband doesn't help out, or you know what I mean. But
yeah.
like the pickups,
It's
the
I
drop
think
off,
it's the hardest job in the world. I truly believe
absolutely,
it. And it should be
absolutely.
people should honor it and respect it a lot more than they do because there's no days off. You don't get paid, you don't get overtime, you don't get holidays. It's doesn't matter what time of day, anything like that, you always are there. So she
No
did an
sick.
incredible job, but
Oh my God,
she
for sure.
yeah, she it was funny because I remember my first like purchase that I wanted as a kid. I was like I was like 6 or 7 and I wanted Heelys, the shoes with the wheels
Yeah,
on
yeah,
the
yeah,
bottom.
yeah, yes, yes,
And I
yes.
remember my mom saying, those are 99.95 if you want them. And I said, I don't have $99.95. She goes, well, you better go figure out how to get the $99.95. So I've always been like, okay, if I want it, I have to go get it. And so she like very much instilled like an entrepreneurship mentality within me. And she always said, the worst thing that someone could tell you is no. So she goes, you never get what you never ask for. And the worst thing someone could say is no. So if they say no, you don't walk away losing anything. You at least you have everything to gain. So that's definitely where that mentality and when I reached out to Make a Wish, I was like, I have this crazy idea. And I was like, it's never been done before. But for me, I think there's something in me that I like not being the exception to the rule, but I do believe I was like, it hasn't been done yet. It doesn't mean it can't be
Mhm.
done. It hasn't been done yet.
Yes.
So I think having that motivation and pioneering things has always been something that's been a big driver for me. I like doing things that aren't expected, I
Yeah.
guess. People
Well,
always want to put
hello.
you in a box, but
No, I'm so
yeah,
excited
break
that
the barriers.
you're saying that because as a 16-year-old, I mean, come on, how intimidating is it to speak to someone who's at the C level, right? I
Oh
mean,
yeah.
come
I
on.
remember going into the office and my mom and I we took the train down to San Diego and I was like in my little like professional outfit and I was like, okay, these are the talking points I want to go over. These are the ideas that I have. And I remember going up to the admin and she looked at me asking if I was one of the children to Make a Wish. So that was kind of the funny part. I said, oh no, I'm here for a meeting. And she goes, okay. I was like, yeah, I am. So it was, everyone was confused by it. And he ended up talking to the CEO about it, and CEO and I became good friends after that. But it was the same thing. He goes, this girl reached out. He goes, and I'm more intrigued by the fact she had the courage to contact me, and he goes, she sounded professional. He goes, I'm just kind of curious to see,
Is
what it
this
is. And I think
child?
exactly who is this child? Who let her contact me, and what is she doing? Shouldn't she
Yeah.
be in school? So definitely one of those.
Oh my
But
God. Okay,
I think,
so
yeah.
here you are, you highlight this new idea. And
Hmm.
so tell us a little bit more about this idea. What actually happened?
Yeah. So I wanted to basically, the Make-A-Wish Foundation is an incredible organization and there's chapters within every major city in the US. But one of the big things is there isn't like a face. There isn't someone who talks to the people. And one of the biggest misconceptions is that every child that gets a wish is terminally ill. And that's one thing that they do. That was the issue that we were trying to resolve is how do you, switch the mindset to these children do have life threatening illnesses, but so many of them are so resilient. And when they get their wish, it gives them hope. It gives them something to look forward to. It really changes your mindset. And you see that, in my opinion, like children are the most resilient and seeing, how a child could go through something so so hard, but to be so grateful and so loving. And I think the part that always got me is I would ask these kids because they were like sometimes my age, and I would say, "How do you stay so strong?" And they said, "Well, I can't let my mom see me be scared, or I can't let my dad see me be scared because I know how terrified they are."
Oh my
And
God.
you meet these kids and you're just like, wow, I will admit I definitely went to events that, so the goal was to be a representative and talk to people and get people involved and wanting to be a part of the organization. So they ended up giving me the opportunity to do so. So I was Miss Make a Wish, first one ever.
Yeah.
And the goal with it was, so the average wish cost about $8,000. And so the goal was to raise enough money to grant one wish by the time I competed in the pageant.
Yeah.
And so that was about like 8 months to a year. And I ended up fundraising $22,000 for the organization. So I ended up getting the opportunity to grant two wishes and
No,
representing them in the state pageant, which I ended up winning, which was
of
great
course.
publicity for them, great opportunity for me, and it was a win-win in that situation. So it definitely paid off, I will
Oh
say.
my
It was
God.
an incredible experience.
10x.
Yeah,
Truly.
it was
Truly.
truly a blessing. But I've loved it. And then they ended up keeping me on as a representative for another year just because we enjoyed working with each other so much, and I got to be with the kids because they would have these fundraisers, and like, Make-A-Wish kids would come, but it's a fundraiser with a bunch of adults, and it wasn't always the most exciting environment, or kids didn't want to feel like they were on display. So being someone that could make it enjoyable for them, having them feel comfortable, and if getting them to talk to people. A lot of these kids have spent so much time in a hospital that sometimes, social anxieties is a real thing, especially when you're kind of the guest of honors.
Yeah.
So, just being that person that is, their buddy through the experiences and helping them enjoy it and making them feel comfortable is like my favorite part of the job. So I
Oh,
really, really enjoyed it.
how beautiful is that? And so, okay, so here you're doing the pageantry and you're raising money. So at some point, where does the life of your educational background at Pepperdine, how does that come about in your life?
Yeah, so I was raised in a Christian household. It's always been my faith has always been a really big part of my life. I graduated high school at 16. And like any 16-year-old, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, which I think is fair.
Yes.
And I was praying and just like saying, okay, I was like, I want to go to college. No one in my family has ever been to college. My grandmother is from Guadalajara, Mexico. She never made it past fourth grade. My grandfather barely made it past high school. So my mom always said, if you want to go to college, that's great. That's a great goal, but you're going to have to figure it out because I don't have any knowledge. I don't have the experience and I don't have the money to help you. So that's how I actually got into pageants. Is fun fact, pageants offer some of the largest scholarships for females in the country.
Oh,
And I said, oh, well, this is the way we're going to do it. This is a creative way to pay for school.
oh
And
my,
Pepperdine had an incredible program. It was between, I wanted to stay in SoCal. That was my goal. I'm a San Diego girl through and through. I like warm weather.
yes.
Um, but when I graduated high school, I was the youngest person ever to be accepted to Joyce Meyer Ministries internship program in St. Louis. So I actually moved away to the Midwest at 16. I lived in the third most dangerous zip code in the country. Uh, it was an incredible experience. We worked like 50, 60 hours a week in this internship. We worked with like 9 different outreaches. We fed, 800 kids after school every day, 200 homeless. And you get to see how God works in people's lives in so many different capacities. So I was out there for about 6 months or so, and I experienced a Midwest winter, and then I had to come home.
Well, yes,
I was like,
from
I
San
love it out
Diego.
here, but I can't do the freezing cold, guys. My body cannot survive.
No, no,
So
no, not
yeah,
even.
yep, I came back and I was like, okay, this is confirmation. If I go to college, it needs to be in warmer weather. And I was praying about it, and it was between UCSD and Pepperdine, and I just said, I love the internship program that I was in. I got to see, how God could make such a change in people's lives, and I really wanted to get an education where my peers and the faculty have similar values. um, just even going to the orientation and talking to people, they hold themselves to such a high level of integrity, and that's something that's really important to me. Is I don't want to take the easy way out, and I know there's so many people that want to cut corners, but just to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do, and it's just kind of instilled in your character, I think was something that really stood out to me about Pepperdine. And the program that I did specifically that really drew me to it, that was like the final movement towards it, was that the program that I was in, every professor actually had to, so I studied business. Every professor actually had to run a successful company and then teach on the side. That had to be their second job.
Okay.
And the reason being is because they said we want our students to learn from people who are actually in these fields. We don't want just a theoretical knowledge of the information. We want people who are doing it. So it was incredible to work with people like my marketing professor runs the second largest credit card processing company in competition with PayPal. And my operations manager professor, she was an exec at Coca-Cola for a long period of time. And so learning from people that are in the industry that are having to work and do be a professor on the side, one, they teach you really about time management, and everyone is motivated in the program because you're like, okay, if my professor went to work all day long and now they're coming to teach afterwards, I can go to work all day and still get my homework done, kind of thing. So
Oh,
it taught me a really good lesson, and it was very motivating. And so that
okay.
was one of the reasons I chose
I
Pepperdine for
I
sure.
bet. Oh my God. Talking about time management. I'm like, shit. Yeah, how incredible to know that. Because oh God, I eat, I get tired, I want to take a nap. And
Oh yeah, same. Naps are mandatory in my life. This is the only way
I'm
I
like,
survive.
I'm like, oh my God, you really have to be very efficient with your time to have not only
Yeah,
a full-time position, but then also go and teach. Like that is
exactly.
like
And they
next.
have families. They have, it's one of those things. Also, to meet people who have gone through it. Like one of my leadership professor, I will remember, she was studying to get two MBAs at the same time. She was a professor and she worked as a VP at a company. And she was a mom of three. And she
Oh,
goes, I've never missed any of my son's baseball games and practices. And I said, we were all like, how does that work? Where do you get extra hours in the day? Like, how do you figure this out? And she's like, when I would go to their games, and she goes, I would have my book. And if my kid wasn't playing, I'd be studying in the bleachers. And she goes, I had a rice cooker at home and like, like the crock pot. So that did the cooking by the time we get home at the end of the day. And she goes, you just have to make it work. And that was something when I was in St. Louis. It was a phrase that I learned, and it's something that's really stuck with me. Is FIOMIH, which is figure it out and make it happen. And
yes.
it's just
Yes.
if there's a will, there's a way. You just gotta you
Yeah.
gotta figure it out. You don't know
Yeah.
how, but
Yeah. Or
at
like,
some point you just gotta really prioritize. And I think that
right.
when you live a life that's very intentional, it makes it a lot easier to manage your time because you're not wasting it.
Well,
But it is hard. You have to really make the decisions and sit with everything and say, okay, is going out with my friends really the priority right now? I should really be with my family? Is it, I think you have different seasons in your life where you focus a lot on work, and that's okay. And you have to pull back sometimes and say, hey, I'm getting burned out. Now I need to focus on my family. I think you can have it all. It's just not necessarily all at once.
once.
You have to know that things are going to be, give and take, and it's figuring out which season of your life that you're in that to do that is a
Yeah.
big part.
Yes. And what I have learned after speaking with you, having many conversations with you, is that you do definitely live a very intentional life, and
I
that
try to.
and you don't waste any opportunity. Like it's almost like you're the energizing battery. You don't
My
have a
friends call
break.
me the Energizer Bunny because they're like, I don't understand how you get all this done. And I was like, you figure it. Like,
You,
I'll sleep later
yeah.
eventually.
You know what I've always said, and I shouldn't be saying this, but I do. I said I'll sleep when I'm dead because
Yeah,
I'm like, yes, let's make this shit happen. Thus the podcast,
exactly.
right? Oh
Oh,
wow,
yeah.
this is fantastic stuff. So Amiga, okay, so you eventually graduate from Pepperdine. Um,
Hmm.
so what was your first job out of Pepperdine?
So I worked as a technician at Apple retail prior to that. And right when I graduated, I got an offer to actually come to Apple corporate. So that was my first job out of college, and I was very excited. So
You were involved in the tech world, which is
mhm.
because you were in the business side. So,
Yes.
okay. So I just want to kind of follow the trajectory of your education. So your degree is in business and technology, or is
Business and management,
business and
strictly
management?
business.
Okay,
Yeah.
so how does the business and management land you in the tech? Because I'm like thinking to myself, I'm like, wait a minute, how is that possible?
For sure. Well, so for me, I've always wanted to be in tech. I think for one, I was like, okay, this is the future of everything. This is something where, job security in that sense. Computer science was not the degree I wanted to go for. Sitting down at a computer all day is not, I thrive with people. I prefer things on an operational standpoint. And so I said, okay, how can I combine business with tech, and what are the avenues that I can choose for that? So my first role out of college was to be a project coordinator at Apple. So I actually ran user studies. So anything involving the Apple Watch, as far as like fitness workouts, those kind of things, you're able to do that. So
Because of Alexa, right?
yeah. So
Yes.
we had a lot of opportunities like that, which was really cool. So,
Oh,
but
that is
that's where it started, and that gave me the opportunity to work in tech just from a different standpoint, which I really enjoyed. It was also the health aspect. My mom was always very health oriented, so that was a big part for us.
nice. So then, okay, so you go to Apple, but then you leave Apple for Google, or how does that?
Yes. So I was at Apple for in that space for about three and a half years during the pandemic. And then I got an opportunity to go over to Google. Some call it the dark side, some call it the light side, depending on who
Right.
you're a fan of. But that was, yeah, I got the opportunity to go be a program manager at Google, which I absolutely loved. I love the culture. It's a really incredible place to work. Sometimes it's hard to believe that that's really a working environment. I remember I brought friends to my job because you can bring people, and there's free food, and we have gyms, and there's like pool, and people were like, "When do you work?" And I was like, "In between, I don't know." So it was a really cool experience, and getting to see and surround myself with people who are so incredibly smart. I think the biggest thing that you learn is like having worked in tech for almost over 7 years now. There's a lot of. I had a professor say this one time, and it was one of those like just little statements that kind of stuck with me over the years. He goes, "Look, there's a lot of people who know tech, and there's a lot of people who know business. There's very few people who can work cross functionally and communicate with both teams. If you can do that," your job prospects will be, you'll have so many opportunities in the world, because there's so few people who can say, I have the ability to think like a programmer, and this is what they need to achieve. And then go to the business side and say, okay, but what do people want? What do the markets want? What are people looking for? They can think of the product, but they can't think of how to build it. Other people are like, I can build things, but I don't know what you want me to build. So being that person that's been in between has actually been a lot of fun. And
What
I
a
kind of joke sometimes, I'm kind of like a glorified mom to people, because I have to make sure everyone crosses their T's and dots their I's and gets their homework in on time. And you have to get along with people, and that's not always the easiest thing to find in tech.
no,
I
but
get
that
along with everybody, so that works in my favor. But
exactly,
yeah.
exactly. I've always said that. I'm like, I'm like, I am the best when it comes to social settings, but when it
Hmm.
comes to technology, oh my God, I'm inept. I like don't even I'm like, so definitely like there's either you're like really intelligent in emotional intelligence, and then there's those that have the IQ of like Einstein, but like
Oh
cannot,
yeah,
no way they can cross pollinate each
100%.
other.
I have,
Right?
oh yeah, I have friends that are actual like IQ, like genius IQ levels, incredibly smart. You cannot put them in a room with people. Like if you were going to put them in a room with stakeholders, they will make everyone very angry because they don't know how to communicate properly. So it's one of those things, you're like, you're so smart, but at the same time, doesn't always translate the right way. It's not what you say, it's how you say it a lot of the time. So, but
Right.
yeah, it's kind of funny sometimes working with people who are so incredibly brilliant, and you're just like, I tell people, I was like, sometimes you're the smartest dumb person I know,
The
or you're the
smartest
dumbest smart person. Like, I was like, I don't get it. You can literally build a rocket ship, but if you had to do a public speaking event with people, you're to get your point across for something, it's not going to go well.
gonna go well. No,
So, but we all have our strengths. I
you're
think that's the
kind of
biggest
like
thing.
the liaison between both. Like it's like, okay,
Exactly.
I'll be your speech coach today.
Basically, yeah.
Oh God.
So,
So I mean,
but
yeah, okay. So you were Apple, you were at Google, and now you're at this wonderful company called, it's called
Archer Aviation.
Archer Aviation. So tell us
Yeah.
about that company.
Yeah. So it's been around for just a couple of years. So it's really been an adjustment going from big tech to not necessarily a startup, but it's still closer to being a startup than it is to being a medium-sized company. And our goal is to build the first EV vertical airlift. So basically, long story short, it's the goal of eventually being flying cars. It's the first iteration of flying cars.
Oh my God, that
So
reminds me of the Jetsons.
exactly, yes, that's what everyone thinks. So right now, it's trying to be the Uber of the sky is basically how it works. And so we have our designs and our test pilots and our test prototypes of our uh, flights, and basically the goal is to have it be like short-term flights for certain distances. So it's just basically to help with like congestion within freeways and those kind of things. So one would be like obviously in LA.
LA.
Another one is San
Angelina's out there.
Francisco.
Oh my gosh.
it's
Woo.
you have to be a certified pilot. It's not anyone can fly these things. So that's the good news. So there will be like,
Oh,
think of it like Uber first. It's the first iteration of it. So we have a long ways to go to get to flying car,
yeah.
but
Is this a
the first
public
iteration of that.
is this a public
Yes,
company?
it is a public company. So it's
So what's its
I could send it to you. I should know. I'm still fairly new, so I need to know that. I don't know that off the top of my head, but yeah, we're in communications with the FAA, and we're closest to being like there's a few people in this area, but we're the first to get FAA approved, which is going to be huge. So it's very exciting. At the end of the year, we'll see how things go. But so one of the flight paths is going to be from San Francisco to Napa. So it'll take 15 minutes to get there. For all those individuals that want to go and take a short trip to Napa and enjoy it.
that's us.
Exactly. You're gonna have to come. Yes. Well, I'll get you signed up. And then
Yes,
it'll be from
please.
like Manhattan to New Jersey. They're working on one in Chicago. There's a few in Saudi Arabia that we're working with. So we're working with the government over there to try it out as well. So they'll probably be the airports are going to be first established there. But yeah, the FAA is working here, so it's very exciting. I actually just signed up to do one of their testing here, so I'm excited. I have yet to try it, so we'll see how this works. But we're in the manufacturing stages, and
Oh
it's
my God.
exciting stuff. It's weird though working on things that you're like, like I remember when I actually started at Apple right when the Apple Watch came out, and everyone thought, oh, it's like Dick Tracy, and like,
Yeah.
we've been waiting for this for so long. So it's
Wow.
all the stuff that you saw on TV long ago is finally happening. So we have self-driving cars here in San Francisco, and that really always throws people off when they come to visit.
Yeah.
And
Oh,
it's
I know.
it's
I
it's
know.
trippy.
So we have it here also, but I'm like, oh my God, that car is driving by itself. It is very
It's
trippy.
scary. It's scary, and it's exciting, but it shows you how fast technology evolves, I think, for some people. And they're like, I'm not ready. I'm not ready for it. But
Well, Amiga,
it's a great opportunity.
you're doing so much, and how do you find dates? Because I know this is a wonderful segue because obviously, you know, um, uh, I know a backstory that we're kind of going to highlight on this
Yeah.
episode because you're such an incredibly efficient woman and very busy. And so, as a beautiful, wonderful young woman, how do you find time to socialize? Because I know you did something so radical that we must talk about. Let's dig in, girl.
Yeah. So I've always been, I think what happened was after being homeschooled for so long, like, I've always been a bucket list girl. I've always been like a list girl. I was like, I need to be efficient with my time. Time is the one thing you can never get back. And that's something that I've always really held very, in high regard. If I want to be intentional with how I use my time and who I spend my time with. And so I was actually when I was 19, I hadn't dated. I was always, focused on school, focused on work. I just I wanted to be a boss babe and, just get my life in order and figure out what I wanted to do with my future. And one of my friends ended up saying, you should probably date. You've never gone on a date. You've never had a boyfriend. And I was like, I've never met anyone worth my time, to be honest. Like if I'm going to dedicate so much time to them, I want to make sure that it's someone that, I really enjoy their company, and we inspire each other to be the best versions of ourselves. And they're like, yeah, but you're such a prude. You just need to get out there. And I was like, oh, who are you calling a prude? And then from there, my extremist personality goes, well, I'll show you. I was like, I've never gone on a date. But you know what? I'm gonna go on 50 dates in 50 days with 50 different guys. Let's see if that's a prude.
You talk about outlandish. Oh my
And
God.
the funny part is it was based off of the movie 50 First Dates, and which I've never seen. I didn't think it had anything to do with 50 different dates. I know it's with the same person, but I was just that's where I got the number. And I said 50 dates in 50 days with 50 different guys. Why not? Like it's I don't know anyone that's ever done that. And that's kind of I was like, that sounds crazy. Let's do it. And so I, downloaded that's when like Tinder and Bumble were out. And I said, okay, let's download these dating apps and let's just meet people. And I was like, I was always I'm a picky girl. I have no problem saying that. But it was one of those things I said, okay, this will open me a little bit more to like different types of people. Maybe not someone that I have a lot in common with. Maybe I can learn from them. So I went on 14 dates in a row every day, different person. And I was just it's a program manager in me before I was even a program manager. I was like, okay, let's be efficient with this. It can be a coffee date. I was like, I don't want to text someone for 3 weeks and then meet them. Like, if we match, I'm like, hey, do you want to meet? Cool, let's meet for coffee. Let's go for ice cream. Let's go for a walk. Like, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. Let's just see if we like each other. Because I feel like when people meet online, it's so easy to, you know, be a Casanova. You get time to think about what you want to say. And I love witty banter. I love people that you can just communicate and the conversation flows so naturally that I was like, I don't want to wait, like be disappointed that, oh, they're so great in text. And then I meet them in person. I was like, oh, that's why you always texted so late. It's because you had to think about what you were going to say.
Right.
So, but yeah, I went on 14 dates and then I met someone that I had incredible chemistry with. We had the most incredible conversations. We talked about our families. We talked about our, what we wanted out of life. And it just was so natural. And after the date, I was like, oh no, I really like this guy. I actually don't want to go on these other dates because I had like 2 other weeks lined up after him. So I actually canceled all those dates and I was like, I don't even know if he's going to ask me on a second date. I feel like he would. We had such a great time. I think our date lasted like 6 hours. And I was like, I really like him. Like I'm willing to cancel everything else that I have to just get to know him. And we ended up dating for like 3.5, almost 4 years. It was a great relationship until it wasn't. I say everything in life is either a blessing or a lesson. Some things start off as a blessing and then they become really good lessons. So after we broke up, I was like, well, I never finished my 50 dates, so I might as well go for round two. And so I ended up going on 9 more dates. And then I met my next partner at the time, and we were together for a year. It was a great relationship. He was complete opposite of the person prior to him. And it showed me that you can have different types of relationships. You can have different types of love with people. And he fortunately was not from the joke I make is he got deported. Basically, but he's from Norway, so it's a little different of deportation. But he had to go home, basically, is what it was.
Yeah.
So, but
His
yeah, so that
was over. His visa was up.
His visa was over, basically. Yeah, he was here for school, and then he could work here for a year, and then if he couldn't get sponsored, but he had to go home. So that's what happened there. And then after him, I was like, let's go back to it. And so I went on 12 dates, and then I was like, oh gosh, this is a lot of work. I don't know. I don't know if it's because I was younger and I was like, you know what, it's efficient with my time. But now I'm like, oh, this is a lot. You have to, all these different conversations you have to have with people and getting to know them and kind of doing the pleasantries. And then I said, okay, you know what, I just need to stop. I'm tired. But yeah, I tried to do it. I didn't quite make it to 50, but it was a good little experiment because it also I would say the one benefit of it was like, yeah, some people, I went on a dating podcast and some people weren't a fan of it because they say you're gamifying dating, which I totally understand and I respect. I always try to be very respectful and like not waste anyone's time as far as like getting to know them and that kind of thing. But it was one of those things for me. I think it made me have to be more open to different types of people because just, I was like, oh, this person's like really into sports. I'm not really a sports fan, or oh, this person, I don't have anything in common with this guy who's a musician. Like, but you have to be more open to it. And then I think the biggest thing is I think some girls, when they go on such a bad date, it kind of like makes you not want to, it makes you dread going on another date. But because I didn't have a lot of time between, I didn't have a lot of time to be sad if it was a really bad date. If anything, it became really like a funny experiment in the sense of like, if I went on a terrible date, all my friends were like, tell me about it. Like, we want to hear, like, it became entertainment for my friends more than anything, which I think made it easier because it's like they say, like, if you fall off the horse, you get back on. And so it definitely, I was like, oh, if some dates were fine, they were nice. Other dates were great. Other dates were, oh my goodness, like I remember one day it was so painful, and I like was holding a fork, and I was like, if I stab myself in the eye, I can go home. Like I can be like, I need to go because I was just trying to leave, and he wouldn't let me leave, and it was so bad. But then I told my friends about it. I was like, okay, well, I have another date tomorrow, so it kind of like just makes you like. I think it helps like the fear of failure too.
Do
It's like
you
when you ask
ghost
people
them?
so much.
Like after, like, do you
Some
ghost?
of them I did. It was bad. I'm not a fan of ghosting. Some of them I ghosted. Some of them I just said, "Hey, I didn't really feel like I think you're a really, nice person,
For
but I
somebody
didn't feel
else.
anything romantically." Yeah, like I feel like yeah, when I was younger, yeah, I was a little bit of a ghoster. I admit.
Oh my
That's yeah.
God.
We live
Like,
and learn. I'm trying
yeah,
not to ghost anyone now.
well,
So
you got to be efficient. I
yeah.
mean, really. I mean, the only commodity you can't replicate is time.
Yeah, and like I grew up with a single mom, so I didn't have and my mom was very protective of me growing up. So she's very independent. She never really dated around me, so I never got to see what healthy relationships were. I never really had that exposure. So, I've always been it's funny working in user studies, even prior to that, I'm always someone that likes to see data. Like my opinion is one thing, my mother's opinion is another, but I want to see like, okay, what does the data say? Like what is like evolutionary psychology? If we look at behavioral psychology, what does it say? What's the best way to approach dating? What are the things you need in a relationship? So that's how I found like people like Esther Perel, and individuals like that, where I said, okay, I don't know anything about healthy romantic partnerships and relationships. Where do I learn this? How do I make sure I'm a great partner for whoever my future partner is, and I don't carry any baggage into those relationships? But also what to look for. Like I don't
Yeah.
like
Well,
sometimes I was like
your
I'm
experiment,
kind of clueless here.
but your
you know
experiment actually really is shows you as proof of like what does
yeah,
not, and
exactly.
identifying that immediately
Yes.
versus letting it linger and prolong, which
Oh
is
yeah.
a trait that we as women are experts in. We tend
Yes.
not to like cut the cord right away,
Oh yeah. Well,
right?
and I think we're always afraid of the level of people pleasing we have is it's I don't want to upset someone. I don't want to hurt someone's feelings. I don't want to, make them feel uncomfortable, and but we're willing to always put ourselves last. And I think that's sometimes such a hard thing is like when you put yourself last always, you have nothing left to give. And it's kind of like I think one thing a lot of women need to learn is like not taking care of yourself is not selfish because it actually makes you the best version to help those around you,
Yeah.
and like that's not the mentality that we're taught growing up,
Well,
especially in Latino culture. I feel like it's you cater to everyone else around you. You always make sure everyone else is okay, and then maybe just maybe if there's a little bit of free time, then you can focus on yourself on that end piece. But the
yeah, no.
burnout is real.
Yeah, one of the things I teach in the Amiga Way Academy is we get to be selfish. And selfish is
Hmm.
not like you said, it's not like you're like, no, it's just I'm gonna be myself. No. It's more of like you're taking care of yourself. You're
Yes.
pouring into yourself so that you can get to live in overflow and share with
Yes.
everybody else. So
a
it
hundred
seems like
percent.
you're doing that. You're being so efficient with your time. I admire you, especially you're so young that
Thank you.
you're doing the things that people only dream of doing. And not only in relationships but also in philanthropy. Like you exude service and exactly how your name is. What is it? Helper of mankind. And I see
Yeah.
that you are a helper of
Thank you.
mankind, Alexa. I'm so excited for all the things that you're doing. And
Thank you.
your experiment, is it going to continue?
I actually have met someone.
Woo!
So yeah, it's
Never
new
know.
stages, but I definitely don't want to.
Yeah.
If I find someone that I really like and that I really respect, I don't want
No.
to mess
Yeah.
that up. So
No. No need to mess
yeah,
it up. When you find it, when you find that that spark, because sometimes the spark can end, but sometimes it doesn't. Look at
Yeah.
me. I'm only 17 years married, so
That's the goal. You and Cookie are the goal for sure.
well, let me tell you, it goes like this,
For
right?
sure.
Up and down. So long as you have that on your mind's eye that not all relationships are not actually there's not one single relationship that is perfect.
A
They all
hundred percent.
they all have their their peaks and valleys.
Yeah.
And it's in those valleys that it's where you start to really foster whether this is for you or it's not for you. So,
Yeah. No,
yeah.
definitely.
Well, amiga, I know we're getting here at the tail end of our talk here, and I always ask my guests if they can provide one or two tips on how an amiga can handle her shit. What say you,
Yes, I would say one that I've learned in more recent years is that I definitely think it's important for women to surround themselves with other strong, motivated, successful women, and that success doesn't have to be in a monetary stance. It's someone who has the family dynamic that you want. I think women are also taught to always be very catty with one another, or like there's not enough pie to go around. So anytime someone's like successes are happening, I think a lot of women get threatened by it, or it someone else's. I had a friend say this to me a couple of years ago, and she goes, I don't get it. She goes, you never get jealous of other women. Oh, sorry. She's like, you never get jealous of other women. And I said, why would I said, I haven't done what they did to get to where they're at. Like, if anything, it inspires me. And I think women need to celebrate each other more. And when you find female friends that are genuinely happy for you and your successes, that's unparalleled, because it's when you find those people that are in your corner, I think is such a big thing. And like that was one thing I remember being at your birthday that I truly loved and admire is you had such a beautiful group of women, and you brought them all together, and they were there to celebrate you, and they were so happy for your successes. And the way everyone spoke about each other, like these, you all lifted each other up. And I see that in smaller groups, but your friend group was actually the first time I've seen it in women. And I was like, gosh, they're all so beautiful. They're all, they have these beautiful families, and they're just so, you're radiating from the inside, and you all celebrate it. And like for me, I was like, I want to find my version of this. I want to find my group of friends like this. So that's something I'm focusing on this year, is really trying to find friends that celebrate my successes with me. And
Santa
when you go
LA.
through the hard times, they're also there. Yeah,
That's
honestly, I would love to move back to SoCal. So
that would be amazing to
but
have you here and be a part of all the things that we're doing and I mean I'm just so grateful that Nadine brought you to the party because I was like,
I'm very grateful
oh
too.
my God, who is this woman? I love her.
I had the best time, and I was so honored when you invited me to your birthday. It was such a beautiful week for me, just to see you all together. And just like I said, I feel like it's so sad to say, but I don't see a lot of beautiful, strong women really just uplift each other in everything. And you all are so successful in such different ways, and like it was so admirable. And it was like, for me, it was so like awe-inspiring. Like I kept finding myself like being in the corner being like, I think this is so cool. This is the goal. This is the dream. This is like just, it's like, people always talk about like girl squads and those kinds of things, but you guys like actually have like such a beautiful girl squad. And I was just like, I love this. I love
But
this. I support this. I
I
love
do
it.
have to
So
tell you that the intention I had for my birthday was that I only want expanders at my
yeah.
party, people who really support me completely. And I thought there was going to be other individuals who have been in my life that I thought were like my best friends, but
Hmm.
one of the highlights of COVID all that time really showed me those that actually are here to support me.
Yeah.
And they all disappeared. They all disappeared out of my life. And
Yeah.
that's a beautiful thing. I honor things are for a season or for a reason
Hmm.
or a lifetime.
a
And
hundred
and
percent.
and that's okay. And that's okay. And I treasure every moment of every individual. And so for me now, as you said, surround yourself with other strong women, that's exactly what I have done. I completely changed my life. And I feel like if you need any support, amiga, let me know. I'm 50
That
years.
means the
I have
world
a
to me.
lot of experience in this realm.
I will definitely take you up on that for
Yes.
sure.
And then, maybe no more 50 dates. Maybe this is the one. You never know, right?
You never know. We leave it to God. So
Yeah,
it's
exactly.
it's
Living
up
in
to that. But
purpose and
yeah,
having God
and
is their center of
100%.
our life.
Yes.
1000%. Well, amiga, thank you so much for being here with me today. And amigas out there, make sure you follow her. She is found on Jax underscore Alexa. Is that what
It should be Alexxa underscore
Alexa?
Morgan.
Okay. Oh my God. Alexa, why did I say that? I didn't
It's all
say my
good.
name.
I love it. You combined it. We're
I
starting a new
combined it.
company. We're
I'm like, oh
combining
my God.
team.
Yes, Alexa underscore Morgan.
Morgan. Yeah.
Yes,
Alexa with
combined it.
two X's.
Yes,
Alexxa.
of course, not to
Dos
forget.
Equis.
Yes, Dos Equis. Thank you so much, Alexa. And I'm so grateful for you to be here. And I know there's going to be a lot of young ladies out there. They're going to be like, how the fuck did you do this 50 days?
It was hard. It's a lot of work. I'm not gonna lie. It was like another side job, but
Yeah, no, I know,
you know,
but you're a workaholic and you're very
I
efficient.
am.
Your expertise is in project management, so of course.
Yeah.
Well, amiga,
It happened to work out in that regard. So it's definitely my personality. But thank you so much for having me. This has
thank
been
you
an absolute
so much,
pleasure.
Alexa.
Always a pleasure to talk to you. So thank
Likewise,
you.
my friend.
Thank you for tuning in to this week's episode of Amiga Handle Your Shit podcast. If anything resonated with you today, I'd love for you to share it with your friends. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast platform and spread the word on Instagram, Facebook, and all your social media channels. If you have any questions, comments, or feedback, feel free to reach me directly at amigahandleyourshit.com. Please note that the information shared on this podcast is for informational purposes only and does not constitute professional or legal advice. Always seek the advice of your own professionals regarding any decisions or actions you may be considering. Thank you so much for listening. Gracias y hasta la próxima.